We overthrew a government, and what's in power in Libya now? Al-Qaeda. We're trying to do the same thing in Syria. We're helping the Saudis. And by the way, when you mention the Mossad, you have to realize the Mossad and the Saudis are very close partners right now. They're working together. They're supporting the jihadists, the terrorists in Syria and in Iraq. And they're working with Obama. But, you know, here's where you really see the problem, Clayton. And this is, I'm glad you brought this up, because it's not just that they're lawyers. It's that a lot of people get elected to Congress and they decide to go in and do something and try and make a change. And then they find out that if they want peace assignments, they have to vote with the leadership. If they want campaign funds for re-election, they have to go along with the bankers and the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical cartel and the for-profit medicine cartel and so on. So in order to stay in office, they have to corrupt themselves. And so you have people like Rand Paul, who occasionally comes out and attacks the banks and says a few good things, but what is he doing to change the policy? You have this phony Ted Cruz, who claims he's the most conservative man in the Congress. His wife is a damn executive of Goldman Sachs. She just stepped down a few weeks ago.
And I might toss in there, for you people that are walking around talking about Obama not being eligible to be president because he wasn't born here. Well, neither was Ted Cruz.
And you know, the idea that some people in Texas think, well, Ted Cruz is like us because he sounds stupid and talks conservative stuff. I mean, he hasn't done a thing to go after Obama. You get people like Mike Lee of Utah, who got elected to the Senate over incumbent Robert Bennett because he attacked the Wall Street bailout. He's done nothing to stop a Wall Street bailout. You have these Republicans who say correctly Obamacare is unconstitutional. I mean, it's an attack on the medical profession and on people's health, and it's a government bailout of insurance companies. What have they done? They put up these stupid little niggling complaints to overturn it. Why don't they just fight from the top and say, look, Obama should be impeached? Now, my view, Clayton, is if a Republican had the guts, or a Democrat, because some of the Democrats are starting to break with Obama, if they had the guts to draft a bill of impeachment, and we would help them, although there are many, many people who have all the evidence you need to impeach him, you could make a case that the American people would support, including people who think they're pro-Obama. But they won't do it. And part of the reason is they blew their wad, so to speak, on the stupid attempt to get rid of Bill Clinton. And if you look at it, whatever else Clinton did with Monica Lewinsky, no one got killed. But with Bush Jr., with Obama, American soldiers are being sent into a meat grinder without backup and without a winning strategy. And we've lost a lot of good men and women, and many, many have come back with post-traumatic stress disorder, with loss of limbs, and they come back to what? They can't get jobs. The VA system is dysfunctional. So this is, if ever we needed an impeachment to define the issues and organize the American people, it's now.
Yeah. I have a story for you. I won't do it this hour, probably next hour. It took me 50 years after volunteering for Vietnam to get recognized by the VA for having prior service. And I had my first incident with the VA hospital. Went into the VA hospital because I had something wrong with my hearing, something wrong with my ear. And so I went to the VA hospital and took 2 weeks, 3 doctors, and I finally found a specialist to do what the VA couldn't do, fix my hearing, fix the pain in my ear after, about a half a bottle of pain medication. A private doctor did what the VA couldn't do and pulled one of my little plastic earbuds out of my ear. I don't know. I don't know how a VA doctor could shine a light in my ear and not see a little plastic earbud in there, but evidently they couldn't. We'll report more on the VA later.
Well, and that's just one example of the neglect of the president and the Congress for the people we're sending overseas to die in a war that's poorly defined. That, you know, if you wanted to fight ISIS, just as a simple example, you would tell the Saudis to stop funding them, or that we're going to attack the Saudis. Meanwhile, we're arming the Saudis who are bombing Yemen, which is the poorest country in the world, and we're bombing a group that's fighting Al-Qaeda. The Houthis are opposed to the corrupt government, and they're opposed to Al-Qaeda. And by the Saudis bombing them, Al-Qaeda is now taking over southern Yemen. Now, I'm sure people remember when Obama made the stupid statement that ISIS is the junior varsity. The group he said is the most dangerous in the world was Al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula. And yet, our support of the Saudis bombing Yemen is bringing to power Al-Qaeda, just as our attempt to overthrow Assad is bringing to power ISIL or ISIS in Syria and Iraq. So the president, you know, and some people say he's a secret Muslim, he's a secret Muslim, he's just a Satanist. But he's committed to the destruction of this country. And the fact that people like John McCain are saying he's not doing enough to support the so-called moderate rebels in Syria, there's no moderate rebels in Syria, never has been. That's a fraud. The fact that McCain supported Obama completely on the Libyan attack, which brought to power jihadists. This is what I'm saying, that we look at the two parties, and as far as I know, McCain's not a lawyer, but he's an example of the same problem. A guy who should probably be in a retirement home somewhere counting his millions. Instead, he's putting us on a course to war with Russia and in defense of the Muslim terrorists in the Middle East.
Well, let me talk about this for a minute with you, because first of all, I helped stop the war in Vietnam. I didn't go to Vietnam. I volunteered for Special Forces. I volunteered to go fight the communists in Vietnam, but then I found there were more communists in the United States than there were in Vietnam. And so I didn't go, and but I did go out and sell a few million peace symbols, peace over the flag, peace on earth, that kind of thing, to Kmart's and Spencer's Gifts and every head shop across the country. But I've also been telling people that this whole 50 years of the Cold War with Russia was a false flag. The Russian people were never our enemy. The Tsar was our friend. That's why they murdered him and then gave us the Federal Reserve there. The communists, of course, those were started by the whole Bolshevik Revolution, was started as a war on the Russian people. The Russian people, they killed, what, 60 million Russians, white Christian Russians?
You know, if you look back on this thing, what you find is that historically, Russia was an ally with the United States going back to the American Revolution.
Yes.
Catherine the Great was one of the founders of something called the League of Armed Neutrality. And it was Catherine, eventually the French joined, the Joseph II of the Habsburg Empire of Austria, he was part of this. It was essentially a group that said that they would not just be neutral, but they would oppose British efforts to put embargoes against the United States, and that they would not support the British fight against the American Revolution. Now, Alexander II, who was the Tsar during the American Civil War, and again, most Americans don't know this, but British offered to blockade U.S. ports on behalf of the Confederacy. And the Russians sent a big portion of their national fleet to San Francisco, New York, and Baltimore, in Boston, to help the U.S. break the blockade if the British joined the war. You know, World War I, the Russians were our ally, and you had the evidence to show the Bolshevik Revolution were partly a British operation to destroy Russia. Now, let's go a little further into this, Clayton. In World War II, Hitler was put in power, not by the German people. He never got more than 33% of the vote there, and he was going down after the 1932 November election. What happened in Germany is that you had the Bush family and the Harriman family in the United States working with British bankers, including Montague Norman, who was the head of the City of London Bank, the Bank of England, working together with Schroeder's Bank and some of the Rothschild banks in Germany to put Hitler in power. Now, why did they want Hitler in power? Because they wanted Germany and Russia to destroy each other. And what happened in World War II, look, Stalin was a ruthless, bad dictator in the 30s. He killed millions of people. But when it came down to defending the nation against the Nazis, Stalin called on Russian nationalism, and the Russian people supported the war. They lost 26 million people in World War II. But they defended the nation, and had they not done so, Hitler probably would have been able to take over Great Britain. And possibly, who knows what would have happened with us, because we weren't prepared to fight at that point. Now, after the war, the Cold War, as you point out, was, the idea was that Franklin Roosevelt had was, let's rebuild Europe and Russia and China and look for common interests. And instead, when Roosevelt died, Churchill came in, got poor idiot Harry Truman to support him, and set up what became the 40, 50 years of the Cold War. Then when the Soviet Union collapsed, what did we do? We sent in bankers to steal their resources, to steal everything that wasn't tied down. That was under Yeltsin. And that's why Putin came to power. And what does Putin represent? He's basically saying, we want to develop Russia. We have no reason to fight you. But if you're going to run a coup in Ukraine and put a pro-Nazi regime in power on our borders and move NATO troops and NATO weapons to our borders, we'll fight back. So if we had a president of the United States who was not a traitor, the president would say to Putin, come over here, let's sit down and talk for a couple of days and work these things out. It could be done very easily. But as you point out, these wars are not about defending nations or democracy. They're about extending the power of the global financial interests. And of course, the defense sector goes along with that. One thing I will tell you, Clayton, you probably know this, but we would already probably have had a nuclear war with Russia if it were not for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has done everything he can to stop Obama from provoking a war, including, you remember when we did not bomb Syria based on this phony false flag evidence that Assad had used chemical weapons, when it turns out it was the rebels that used them. It was the Russians working with the Joint Chiefs of Staff that stopped that bombing. So our military has been a block to war now. Why is that? Because they realize how they've been ground down by the Iraq War. You talk about Vietnam. Look, we lost, 56,000 men in that war, and how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands were damaged by it. And look what we did to Vietnam. We've been at war now since 2002. How many Americans have been through this? We have a hard time recruiting people to the military. So we've actually seen a destruction of our capability to fight as a result of Bush Jr. and Obama.
Well, I've always said that anytime a communist, totalitarian, communist, fascist, I don't think it makes a lot of difference. Anytime one of these regimes take over, they go after three classes of people in order. The first is the farmers or the ranchers, because they don't want us to be able to feed ourselves. The second is the intelligentsia. That's anybody that's smart enough to know what the hell they're doing. And third is the veterans and the police officers that might still be loyal to the old regime. Those of us that still honor our oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And we're in that third stage right now. They're trying to demonize the veterans. And I said when they sprayed us with Agent Orange in Vietnam, when they handed us this depleted uranium, hey, you're going to like this ammunition. Boy, it'll blow a tank up just like that. It'll kill you and your children 10 years from now, but don't worry about that. They're really using our own weapons and our own system against our soldiers because they don't want combat hardened veterans coming back honoring that oath that we took.
And then you have another weapon of mass destruction called television and the mass media, the mainstream media, which to me is one of the more damaging things because it puts in people's heads a completely corrupt, delusional view of what man is. You know, if you look at everything we've been talking about so far, why is it that the American people, who are basically good people, who have always believed that we can make the world better, how is it that we've come to accept such horrible government? And what you see underneath it all is that we have been corrupted since the Kennedy assassination to think that the goal in life is to get money, to have goods, to be comfortable. And what a lot of people did was they sold out the idea of fighting for a better future for their children and grandchildren for the idea of a few moments of pleasure. And as the economy has gotten worse and the banks have stolen more and more and more, people have less comfort, but they still retreat to their comfort zones, whether it's sports, whether it's topless bars, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. Bad movies, television, you know, endless series on television. This becomes the retreat. Instead of looking at the world and saying, my God, what have we lost in the last 40 years? And people like you and me who grew up in the 60s, who remember when we still had industry, who remember when wages continued to go up, when the American people were mobile, but they also had a sense that they would go to new jobs because there was better opportunity for themselves and their families, when parents sacrificed for their children to have a better life. That's gone now. And it's all about what can I get now? And you know, there are a lot of people who are willing to go along with all this corruption because the stock market's going up and they think their pension or their portfolio, their 401k is going up. Have they forgotten what happened just 7 years ago in 2008 when about 60% or more of people's personal wealth was wiped out by crash? Of course they've forgotten it. They see a stock market bubble and the president says this is growth, this is progress, the economy is growing. Well, it's not growing. Last quarter it was 0.1% growth. This quarter it's going to be at most 0.2% growth. That's essentially a depression. And yet people are holding on to the idea that the Dow is hitting new heights and therefore it's a good recovery. And that's the delusion. The problem we have is not that people don't know that Obama's corrupt and that the Congress is corrupt and both parties are controlled. It's that they're still comfortable because they have their illusions that somehow they're going to make it. Now, what happens when those illusions are stripped away by the next crash, which will happen? Well, it depends on whether we have enough people who know what to do and know that there are alternatives, how we can reindustrialize our country, create decent paying manufacturing jobs and infrastructure, rebuilding our collapsed roads and highways and bridges and put in a high-speed rail and things of that sort. We could do this, but we're not. And ironically, you and I talked about this yesterday, isn't it an irony that the former communist Russia and supposedly the present communist China are doing what we used to do. They're investing in dams and water projects and canals and high-speed rail. The Chinese have the best high-speed rail system in the world. We spend less than $2 billion a year on transportation infrastructure, and we see what happened with the Amtrak crash in Philadelphia. The Chinese spend $120 billion a year on transportation infrastructure. So which country is going to be in better shape 10, 15 years from now? So this is the problem we have, and we've got to reverse this. And this is why LaRouche, who's now 93 years old, is continuing the fight, and we're continuing to organize people around the idea that the American system is a better system.
Well, you know, Harley, they don't call television programming for nothing.
That's a good one.
Well, it's exactly what they do, and you know, I have been demonized. The mainstream news, the ADL, the Southern Poverty Law, came down on me for starting the militias 20 years ago after what happened at Waco. I said, what part of the Second Amendment don't you understand here? Yes, I started the militias, but I did it in the governor's office. Wasn't any kind of terrorist plot. It wasn't any kind of overthrow of the government. We were working for the government. We were doing exactly what the government and the laws of this country said we should do. You know, every able-bodied male between the ages of 18 and 45 can be called up by the governor of his state.
And you look at what's happening now with the collapse of a constitutional order, and you know what we should look at with this the Patriot Act, the National Security Agency, so-called spying. Everything we do is being monitored and watched, and of course the people who are monitoring and watching it are not honest brokers. They're looking for excuses to go out and carry out things like Waco. I mean, I was one of the reporters who covered the Waco events, and one of the things that I discovered is that it actually started under George Bush Sr., that there was the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms were about to get cut out of the budget because they weren't really doing much. And so what they did is they decided they would create a shootout. They would create a sense of a need for this agency, and you know they could have arrested Koresh, or they could have arranged with them to come out and surrender. Instead, they wanted a shootout, and you know these are the same people who now run the drone program. So unless we fight to restore our constitutional freedoms, and among the most important of these, if you go back to read the writings of people like Alexander Hamilton at the time of the fight for the Constitution, Hamilton said the most important freedom is economic freedom, is people's ability to make a living, to use their creative powers, to innovate. He didn't use the word innovate at that time, but Hamilton set up something called the Society for Useful Manufactures, which intended to create on a higher level a textile industry, so we didn't have to depend on the British for our and of course under free trade, the Brits were planning on underpricing everything we were doing, so we would be dependent on British manufactured goods for clothing. So Hamilton set up a tariff so that we had a chance to compete. And once that got started, we outstripped the British. And that was the beginning, that and his program to build canals, roads, bridges, to connect the colonies. That was the beginning of the emergence of a nation. Now, today, what are we doing? We've torn down our tariff barriers. Under free trade, we tell corporations you'll get tax breaks if you set up in, it used to be Mexico, then the Mexican wages went up too high, so they moved to China. Now the Chinese are raising their wages, so we're in Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia, where people work, you know, Nike, just as an example. Obama went to Nike to say we need the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They have, I think, 30,000, 80,000 U.S. employees. They have almost a million employees in countries like Vietnam. It costs them less than $5 to produce and put a shoe in a showroom. And yet we pay $120, $150 for it. And the people who produce it get 16 cents an hour. That's free trade. It's a new form of slavery. And meanwhile, Americans aren't producing our own footwear, our own clothing. We're not producing anything we use anymore. As you point out, we're shutting down the family farms. So you have a choice either of purchasing from corporate farms or, even worse, food from abroad, which has no quality control.
That brings up another thing that I want to talk about with you, because I believe free trade could be a good thing if we tore down that wall between us and Mexico and replaced it with tables, and let the Mexicans and the Peruvians and the Colombians bring all of their agricultural products up here and lay it on the table and pay a tariff. And then here in America, abolished all of the laws against victimless crimes that they used to fill our whole prison system. We don't have a military-industrial complex anymore. We've got a prison complex. Yes. And you're paying these prisoners 25 cents an hour, if that much, or 5 cents an hour, to work in these factories, the Hewlett-Packard or Apple, to build these computers, to work in these sweatshops in the prisons.
Well, if I could say something that the free trade, what people have to realize is that in the 1960s, before there were any free trade agreements, and we had tariffs protecting the wages and standards of American production, we still had a lot of trade, because there are certain things that we're not going to produce. We're not going to make Chianti as good as Italian wines or Parmesan cheese as good as Italians, but we were making sure that we kept our machine tools sector safe. Now, once you start eroding those protections, then you start to see industry be shipped out. And now, what's the way to make money in the United States? Finance, insurance, and real estate. Non-production. When you take away the productive skills of American labor, and then they have to compete with each other for so-called entrepreneurial startups, where essentially out of 100 entrepreneurial startups, 95 go under in the first year. You're basically making people dependent on a market which is not free. Because here's the other thing about free markets. They're controlled by the financial institutions that control credit. They're controlled by the private banks that own the Federal Reserve System. And so we don't have a sovereign credit policy, which is what the Founding Fathers intended. We don't have a protection against usurious debt, which is one of the things, if you look at student loans, you look at what happened to farmers, they get loaded up with debt through the commodity derivatives operations, the funny money from banks. And so we've destroyed the real entrepreneurs, like the family farmer, and then tell people if you go out and sell insurance from your garage or something like that, you're a real entrepreneur. Now, one of the things, I know we only have about a little less than 15 minutes, I'd like to offer your listeners an opportunity to get in touch with our office and find out what we are doing to make sure we can impeach Obama. We're not going to wait till January 2017 because we may not have a country by then if he stays in office. And we're coordinating a national surge to get all the people who know that Obama is violating the Constitution, to get them together and get a bill of impeachment and get it into the Congress. And if your listeners would like to know more about it and be in touch with us, let me give an 800 number that they can call and say that they heard it on your program, and we'll send them some literature. So the number to call is 800-922-4630. 2907.
Wait a minute, repeat that. 800-982?
No, 922. So it's 800-922-2907.
I
and
will.
If they tell them, when you call in, just say you heard this on Clayton's show. And if you want to talk to me, you can ask me, Harley Schlanger, and I'll call you back. But it's 800-922-2907.
2907.
And maybe you can put that up on your website also.
I will do that. I will put that up on the website right after the show is over today. It's, Harley, if we don't work together here, we can all plan on hanging alone. And it's Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Nobel Prize winning writer in Russia, said, "You must understand the leading Bolsheviks who took over Russia were not Russians. They hated Russians. They hated Christians. Driven by ethnic hatred, they tortured and slaughtered millions of Russians without a shred of human remorse. It cannot be overstated. Bolshevism committed the greatest human slaughter of all time. The fact that most of the world is ignorant and uncaring about this enormous crime is proof that the global media is in the hands of the perpetrators." And I said,
well, look at what Mao did in China. I mean, Mao was brutal as well. But what's interesting is that the so-called heirs of Mao have completely rejected his form of communism. I mean, remember, you have billionaires in China. How does a communist country have billionaires? What you have is an emergence of an entrepreneurialism based on the most advanced industry and scientific work being done, because the Chinese have pulled 300 million people out of poverty in the last decade, and they have another 300 million to 400 million to go. So they're not in the clear yet, but they at least are going in the right direction. We're plunging what used to be called the middle class and the working class or the productive workforce in this country. We're plunging people into poverty and debt, and that's been going on especially since Bush Sr. came into office.
I have said maybe it's and this is, I want your comments on the whole BRICS situation too. This is Russia and China working together to give us alternatives to the International Monetary Fund and the Federal Reserve. And
okay, well, this is an important point because, again, this is something that's not been covered in the U.S. media. But the reality is that what's happened is that there has been a significant moment in international policy where a group of countries decided that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank were never going to fund development. We're never going to make credits available to help them develop. That there's a one-way flow of money, whether it's resources or cheap labor. And so countries like Russia, China, India, Brazil, and South Africa joined to form what's called the BRICS. And what they said is they're going to set up a new bank, which they call the New Development Bank, with a minimum of $100 billion in capitalization. That can't compete with the IMF and the World Bank. But what they're saying is they're going to make money available to countries without conditions. If the countries can show worthwhile projects, they'll invest in them. And so, you know what the first country that may join the BRICS outside of those 5 countries is? Greece. Because Greece is being destroyed by the European Union and the European Central Bank. The austerity policies against Greece have led to 25% official unemployment, a 25% contraction of their economy in 5 years. Now that's a pretty bad failure. And so the Greeks are saying, can we do something different? And so they're now meeting with the Russians and the Chinese and others. Now what the BRICS represent is just one element of this. There's another group called the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which the Chinese initiated, and they asked other countries to join it. And the United States said, no, don't join it, because that will be outside of our control. So who joined it? The British, the French, the Germans, the Italians, the Austrians, the South Koreans, the Australians, because they want to be able to invest in infrastructure in South Asia, because that's the growing part of the world economy. And so Obama told all these countries not to join them. And the Chinese actually said to Obama when he was in Beijing during the winter for a conference, they said, why don't you join this and drop the Trans-Pacific Partnership? And so instead of Obama's working with the Republicans to impose this free trade agreement, which excludes China. If you're really trying to increase trade in Asia, why would you exclude the biggest country, namely China? So this just shows the fraud and the corruption of this administration. Now, our movement, our organization, the LaRouche movement, is sponsoring a resolution which has been signed by hundreds of VIPs and institutional people and thousands of just ordinary citizens, calling for the United States to stop the policy of geopolitical warfare and instead join with the BRICS. And Clayton, as you and I have talked just over this hour, I know that you're someone who prizes the idea that we should use our strength for peace rather than war. Why don't we join with Russia to shut down the terror operations instead of supporting armed jihadists on Russia's borders? Remember, we're supporting the Chechen terrorists that produced the Boston Marathon bombers. We did. We're supporting them against Russia. So when they come over here and kill Americans, should we be surprised? So we have an opportunity now to join with the Russian people. I'm not worried about the governments or even the Chinese people. Join with them for constructive projects for mankind's future and end the policy of competing for scarce resources and cheap labor and cheap raw materials, and instead to develop a peaceful world which reflects the common interests of mankind. And if we do that, we'll be strong enough that if we have to, we can defend our nation. But we won't have to, because we'll be seen again as the force for good that America was up through the period of the Kennedy assassination.
You know, I'm writing science fiction novels about just such a world. I have to do it as science fiction because basically when you start telling the truth about this, it's just pretty hard for most people to accept. They've been programmed, they've been subjected to propaganda most of their lives. They've grown up listening to propaganda. And, you know, it's actually pretty easy. One of my friends, he's got a book out called Farm Physics. He talks about hemp and hydrogen in 2016. And just those two words, 100 years ago, hemp was our #1 cash crop, way above cotton, way above wheat, way above corn. And they took it from us. They stole it from us. They sent it to Russia. They sent it to China. They sent it to communist countries. They sent it to British-controlled countries like Canada. You can grow hemp in Canada, but you can't grow it in the United States. And here in the United States, at the turn of the century, we had Tesla, who gave us electricity, but we could have had free electricity. But J.P. Morgan didn't want to go along with that. He wanted to feed it out to you from his copper mines, miles and miles and miles of copper wire, so he could control your meter, so he could put a meter on it. And Harley, we could build little magnetic generators that would fit in your garage so that you wouldn't have to have power lines. You wouldn't have to have these power stations. You wouldn't have to have dangerous nuclear power plants. we could have safe electricity, and we could have it basically for free. The people could have this. China could, and I've got a feeling that they are developing this in China, in some of the smaller island nations like Indonesia.
Well, they're also developing technologies such as nuclear fusion, with the idea of getting helium-3 from the moon. Now, basically, we've restricted technological advance because, as you say, the cartels profit from keeping people with old technologies. And this is what we've got to fight. But this is part of the overall drive for real economic freedom. And we just have a minute or two left, and I just want to thank you for having me on and say to your listeners, look, we've got a great country if we're willing to fight to defend it. And I don't mean fighting foreign enemies. As John Quincy Adams said, we don't need to go abroad looking for monsters. We've got some in our own country. And whether it's Jamie Dimon or J.P. Morgan Chase or Obama or Ted Cruz or Mitch McConnell or Hillary Clinton, we've got people who are not competent to govern, who seem to be the powers. And we, the American people, have the power to change it if we stop moaning and groaning and get to work. And so if you're one of the people who want to take this country back, give me a call and let's discuss it. You can call me, again, toll-free at 800-922-2907.
All right, I'm glad I got that. 922-2907. I've got that. It's up on my
2907, yeah.
2907, yes, sir. I've got that. It'll be up there. It'll be on every show. And they said if you would like to impeach Obama, call the LaRouche PAC. Tell them you heard it on the Free American Show. And that's 800-299 800-922-2907.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
All right, sir, and anything I can do to help, please feel free to contact me. Love to have you back on at your convenience.
All right, well, we'll be back in touch, and thanks again, and I hope to hear from some of your listeners.
Thank you, sir. Sure appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see, we're still on a blog talk. And let's do this. Where are we at here? Okay, somehow I lost here my all right. All right. Got Truth Radio. Got Crusade. And we got back on a blog talk. So, hang on just a minute here. And, hey, David, good morning there. Let me do this. Let me do this.
Today, we're all going to learn a new term. It's only 2 words. Now listen closely. Can all of you say constructive fraud? Constructive fraud.
Did you ever get the feeling as you're staring at the ceiling?
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
And the present takes it till they find us in a grave somewhere.
By some, he's been called controversial.
But we never seem to get too far. Well, if you think you're being taken, then you're ready to awaken to the truth of what we really are.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We're all taxed to pay our taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us down.
Catch the Free America weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Learn in public school and get our fathers fighting for liberty so we could get a tyrant's fool.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
All right. And we're back here. And reporting here on my adventure with the Veterans Hospital right here. You'd think that a trained medical doctor working for the VA would be able to see, that might have been the problem. That might have been the problem. Instead of a white earpiece, I had a black earpiece that a doctor 50 miles away, 40 miles away, pulled out of my ear when one hospital, one emergency care, and one VA hospital couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. A pair of tweezers and an intelligent doctor was able to fix my hearing problem, fix the pain, and don't have to live on pain pills anymore. Pretty incredible. Okay. How are we doing in the chat room? Now, maybe we've got some notice here that what do we got here? Looking at some of my emails here. Yeah, somebody sent me a picture of a fiery tornado up on Facebook. Don't know if it's connected here, but that's interesting here. It was in Missouri. A fire tornado is caused by the intense heat from a fire combining with gusty winds to form eddies. These eddies can tighten up and eventually spin to form a tornado. So, fire and ice. Yeah, right. Who we got here in the chat room? Sorry about yesterday. Yeah. Call me, David. Call in here. You got the phone number 646-915-8774. You can tell them about okay. No, I don't do her. I don't do Mighty Phoenix lip syncing videos. I don't do that. They don't play well. But let's see. Let's see what else we've got up here on our Facebook. There were some things that I did want to talk about on here. Well, you just have a hard time with that blog talk, don't you, David?
Hey, Clayton, how's it going?
I'm doing all right.
I was worried to death about you yesterday. I figured you must have got on the bike and went down to Waco to break up the ruckus.
No, but Saturday I did get to meet with over 100 bikers coming from California, headed towards the run to the wall, run for the wall, going out to Washington, D.C. And gee, there wasn't, didn't see a single gun. Nobody stabbed me. There wasn't nobody tried to hit me over the head with a baseball bat. Don't know what happened in Waco to shut all that shit off. But again, this is what they do. They go to, they send somebody in to start some trouble, to shoot somebody, to create some bad press, to counter all of the good that a few thousand bikers are doing, running to the wall to try to bring attention to the thousands of veterans who are still missing, who are still undercounted for, POWs and the MIAs.
Well, yesterday, Clayton, I was breezing through the internet and I found an article that said that they thought that there was a third group that came down there to stir up the trouble between that resulted, and it hadn't been proven yet, but there was some suspicious characters down there in the melee that happened, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they're trying to get something for that Jade Helm excuse to bring in the military or whatnot, just to cause trouble amongst, make it look like there's trouble amongst the biker gangs down there. It's just unbelievable. But once again, it's just like Ferguson, Missouri, just like, it's happened a number of times in this country where it's the undercover, whoever, CIA or government-sponsored groups that go in and stir the trouble up and cause the fighting and cause the melee, and then like I say, they're going to have to bring in the military to calm everything down.
Well, that's they have always done that with the bikers, and they don't like the bikers. They refer to the Vietnam Veterans Motorcycle Club as the most well-armed paramilitary group out there, and they're right. We are.
Oh yeah. Wait, that's the last of the trailblazers. We got them now on two-wheeler instead of horses, but that's
And they've always, you know, they used to pull me over and hassle me just for wearing a leather jacket when I was 14 years old. They have never liked the bikers because we're organized and we ain't scared of nothing. You don't ride a Harley at 90 miles an hour down a crowded LA freeway where, by the way, you can ride in between the automobiles on the freeway. You don't have to have your own lane to pass. One of the things I like about LA, you know, the California. And the other thing I don't like is they want you to wear a helmet. I ride with a cowboy hat. That's all I'm wearing.
You just need to put a piece of steel inside that cowboy hat, and it'll still look good on you. But yeah, you know, it's I don't know what's going on, or I know what's going on, but I don't know why they keep trying to do this petty anti stuff. But what about Obama trying to sign a bill that says they're going to take authority away from all the local sheriffs and make it a federal military intervention down there anywhere? They
have been wanting to do that for a long time. Senate bill, I believe it was 1969 or 1959, Senate bill 1969, was how they formed this whole they tried to federalize all the police forces. That's how they did the fusion centers. They used this homegrown terrorism, you know, tried to stir up suspicion of the veterans, of any of the militias, anything, of their Christian identity, and of course the biker groups. Now this is what this biker war was about. They put somebody in there. It could have been one of the guys, you know. I mean, I had them come after me. As soon as my book, Mystery Babylon, The New World Order Unveiled, came out, I started going to the biker bars because I'd been publishing Thunder Riders there for a long time. And suddenly somebody is angry at me, trying to pick a fight in the biker bar. Why? What's going on here? Well, you're selling that book to raise money for a snitch named Huevos. Don't know any snitch named Huevos. Don't sell a book to raise money for anybody but me. I sell the book to raise money for me. That's it. But this is what they do. They lie about it. They're trying to stir up hatred, stir up dissension, stir up resistance, and take away any income that I might have. And you know, it was about that time that I met you out in California. I came out to California to see a lawyer, a Jewish lawyer, to do one of my books. They wanted a series, a reality show series, and I said, how about one with Lucifer as your main character? Well, they loved that, but sign the contract. If I'd signed that contract, David, while I was out there in California, I would have never been able to produce it or sell it to anybody else, and they wouldn't have produced it.
Yep. That's what they do. But yeah, you know, Clayton, what appears to me to be happening is they're just paying off these starving, broke idiots to go and do this crap to people, and then when the person gets caught and arrested or whatever, or tried and convicted, they don't help them. They just leave them with whatever few $100s they promised him, or if they even give him that. And none of those culprits ever get caught for this at all. They're just paying no minds to do all the dirty work for them. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, you would think it'd be somebody who'd be dangerous to everybody around, and you could squash them. But no, it's just the fools that are doing it, and they're just getting paid to do it. That's what it is. It's really a stupid ass plan, but you know, that's all it is. And the doctors and the lawyers and the judges are all in on it, just like anybody. You know, they're all taking their payoffs, just like our congressmen and senators and president. They're all paid off. You know, it's like there ain't nobody around that ain't getting a payoff nowadays. That's what's so ridiculous about this whole mess.
Yeah, I keep thinking of John McCain. I met John McCain on the presidential thing. He was supporting, I forget exactly who he was out there stumping for. And I said, why are you doing that for him? I mean, he was not one of the good guys. And his comment to me was, you know, I don't care if all the factories move to Mexico. My son is an engineer. I don't care if all the factories move to Mexico. And then they threatened me if I put that in my paper, if I mentioned that on my radio show. And I said, let me tell you what, you ever threaten me again, I'll put all the letters I got from your the soldiers that were in the Hanoi Hilton with you. And so they never talked to me again.
Well, I think your response to any of their prodding just scares them to death. They just figured a long time ago they're going to leave you alone, you know. You have to roll over and die on your own there, because they kind of gave it up on you. And then nowadays, you know, like you were saying, since we've known each other, there's been a lot of whistleblowers coming out of the cracks and corners everywhere, and I mean all the way up to the top. Blowing the whistle on what's actually going on. I mean, even retired generals and military people and airliner pilots and everybody. I mean, they even got on the on the Facebook, they even got pictures of the chemtrail jets, you know, loaded with the chemicals, you know, flying over our heads every day now. And it's like, what I just can't believe is that it's still going on. You know, all of us, the common man and woman, are still getting chemtrailed, still getting sold Monsanto at the grocery store, and Big Pharma's still drugging us all. You know, I can't believe we're letting them do this to us. It's unbelievable. But it's coming down to the fourth quarter here, and we're going to have to make a last ditch effort to take it all back and drown the bastards if we can.
Well, you know, David, I mean, I study history. And I've been doing this most of my life. I've been, and I can't find any point in history. I can't find any point in history when it was easy to be free. You could be walking the streets of London 200 years ago, get knocked in the head, and wake up on a boat bound for America.
Oh yeah. It's always been that way, but you know, it's even getting worse nowadays, you know. And the crazy thing is all these people walk around here, they think they're free, and they're not at all. I can't even find a job that pays me more than $9.50 an hour out here in LA. It's got one of the highest, you know, job paying states in the country, and I can't even find a decent work anywhere. So it's like, you know. It's ridiculous. And now all the foreigners coming in, taking our jobs away from us and exporting all the work to third world countries. It's like, what? Whatever happened to Made in America, the best, you know? I think that we're going to have a revival here, Clayton. I think we're going to have more than just a religious revival. We're going to have an economic and a national revival, and it's going to be the kind of thing that just blows them all right out of their seats. Because we got to take it back, and that's the only thing we can do.
Well, I think today's show with the man speaking for Lyndon LaRouche, you know, is a positive sign. Here you've got some people that do have some swing, and they're talking about the same thing I'm talking about. I mean, we can, if the people had the power, everybody would have their own generator sitting in their garage.
Yep. Everybody would be able to grow a garden in their backyard, too. And their kids would be educated on how to do it. And a few of the little things would just change, and it would change the whole structure of our system here. The little things, not so much the big things, just the little things. But you know, we gotta take back this country and make the pay scale fair. That's one thing, you know. I'm sick and tired of seeing men and women working long hours till their backs are breaking and they're old and gray, and they're only getting paid a few cents on the dollar. And you got these millionaire congressmen and senators and president that are collecting from us for the rest of their lives on a pension. And then you also got you know, sports figures and rock and roll stars and all this bull hockey out here in Hollywood. They're just getting paid all kinds of money for doing nothing, just for acting a role on a television or on a movie. It's like that's just unbelievable, you know, to me. That this kind of treatment's going on. So this is what this next campaign is going to be about is equalization a little bit more, and a little less of giving it away to somebody that don't deserve it, you know.
Well, this Harley Schlanger had it right. Hold on just a second here. Let me let Truth Radio finish up with their information. Harley Schlanger had it right, working for Lyndon LaRouche. Lyndon LaRouche is a brilliant man. I'm glad I had the opportunity to meet him. You know, I've really been blessed, folks. I've got to meet Bill Cooper, sit in his living room and have a beer, and numerous others that I've got to meet. Charles Collins, traveled across the country with Charles Collins. And Eustace Mullins. Got to meet Eustace Mullins. God had him speak at some of my events. I think I've really been blessed. And then it's just a matter of getting this information on to you and you passing it on to others. I'm still broadcasting. Despite all of the problems that I've had, I'm still broadcasting. I'm still on the air. I've still got years of programming available on freeamerican.com. And you can be a part of this. I mean, you can make a donation. You can help support this. You know, they don't want you to hear me, and this is why they've gone out of their way to demonize me over the years, or block me from libraries, or, you know, try to make it impossible for you to hear. We've got a choice here. We've got a way to do this. And the opportunity here is just coming in. I think with the technology we've got, we're actually making progress here. It may not seem like it, especially if you're watching the news, if you're watching this kind of, if you're watching the mainstream, it's, you know, if you can avoid being hypnotized by it, you're certainly not going to get any new information or any information that's going to be productive. But we do have solar, we do have wind, we do have magnetics, we do have people out there that have furthered the work of Nikola Tesla, that have something that they've got to offer us as a community. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on in Russia or China, but I know you've got a large mass of people that are getting educated. They didn't have the internet, they didn't have this technology 100 years ago when Alexander Solzhenitsyn was thrown in jail.
Well, you know also, Clayton, so now that you mention it, you know, on those 5 different news networks, a lot of these people are getting indicted and thrown in jail or losing their ability to broadcast for a term or whatever. And even the news reporters, but Hillary Clinton is they're piling up the crap on her. And even Mitt Romney, I saw him in the boxing arena the other night with one of these famous boxers going a few rounds. I mean, they're all out there trying to make a good impression, but nobody's picking up on it. No, because everybody knows with this internet out there. Everybody knows the news has been circulating for a few years now how rotten they all are and how they're all been taking advantage of us for so long. And I think everybody's getting real sick and tired of the facts and figures the way they're really presented to them. So I think the change is coming, and I think we're going to be riding high on the wave here shortly.
I hope so. I hope so. It's a matter of waking up people. And the first group that I was a part of when I started the Free American, was Wake Up America. You know, the Wake Up America movement out of Albuquerque. Hey, let's have some fun.
You know,
let's have some fun here for a second.
Yeah, let's have some music.
No, I'm going to take a call. What do you got to say here, Scumley? What's going on with you? Why do you keep coming on my show if you think I am so bad and I am something? What do you got to say? What do you have to offer? Do you have anything real? Or do they pay you to do this shit? Go ahead.
So I want to hear it. You're the one that started the militia, right? It wasn't the founding fathers of this country that started it. You started it. On ass. You started it.
No, sir. I started it. Hey, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. When I talk, you shut up.
You fat-headed.
I started the militias in the governor's office in New Mexico. Oh, you idiot. I'll never bring you up again. I'll never bring you up again. If you can't handle yourself and conduct yourself in a reasonable manner, I won't ever bring you up again. Now, you want to talk to me?
Yeah, how's your Jewish friend Gordon Duff doing, the biggest bullshit artist on the internet? How's he doing, huh? Why don't you bring up the guy who got torn up the behind pretending to be a white, pro-white guy? How about him? You know your guests are a bunch of crap.
Okay, thank you very much, you ignorant son of a bitch. Goodbye. Okay, that's the last time I'll bring him up.
He is a stupid idiot, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can get highly intelligent people. You can't pay highly intelligent people to be total assholes.
Yeah. Well, hey, if somebody had some good arguments to call you up with and discuss, it'd be interesting to hear them. But just fools.
Okay,
fools like that, wow.
You anybody that wants to get anything on this stupid son of a bitch, he's in Florida. Wish I was still there. I'd ride over and knock on his door. And there you go. There's Scumley in numbers. Now, why? Okay, Harley David Stein. Why would I let some stupid person talk? Okay, that's it. That means you're gone too. Goodbye. All right.
I think that's Ted's second system.
Yeah, he's got two computers. So what? That actually might be I don't think he probably wouldn't use his real name, Ted Rosenberg.
No.
But
no.
I just got no patience with that. I'm sorry, I love to take calls. I love to have somebody call in, but I'm not going to be abused on my own show. And it's like this asshole Stu Webb calling up to demonize Ted Gunderson, who I knew and liked. And he's dead now, so he can't defend himself. Well, Gordon Duff can, and Stu Webb wants to demonize Gordon Duff and try to do that.
Yeah, I've been hearing about Stu Webb on other website, web programs as well. They've been bad mouthing him and saying what a sucker he is too, because he's been calling other shows and giving them crap that are walking the walk and talking the talk now. So
yeah, I had him on my show until I told him to shut the hell up when he's on my show. That it's my show. Shut up when I'm talking, and so that got him against me.
Got his panties all in a bunch. Jesus, it's coming down to it right now. But well, Clayton, listen, hey, thanks for having me call in and just chit chat for a few minutes with you. I'm going to be listening on the chat board, but going to sleep here shortly. I got to work tonight, but I'll keep you on until 9 a.m.
All right, I appreciate it and appreciate you being on my show here.
Oh, yeah, I'm always happy to call in and and laugh a little with you at the fools. Well, have a great day, Clayton.
All right, see ya.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we still got Black Tack. And Mark Elsis has sent me something here. Let's check this out. Okay, shoving match in a bathroom at a confederation of clubs meeting in Waco, Texas, exploded into a war yesterday. 9 people were killed, 27 people were injured, 17 were hospitalized. 2 are listed in critical condition, and 160 men were arrested following a brawl at a chain restaurant in a shopping center on the South Jack Colton Expressway. The fight resulted from a long simmering dispute between members of the Banditos Motorcycle Club and the Cossacks and the Scimitars Motorcycle Clubs. Curtis Jack Lewis, president of the Abilene chapter of the Banditos, and Wesley Dale Mason, the chapter sergeant-at-arms, were accused of stabbing 2 Cossacks outside Logan's Roadhouse in Abilene in November 2013. The 2 banditos were charged with aggravated assault in March 2014. The Scimitars are in the process of patching over to the Cossacks. The other clubs in attendance at the Sunday brunch included the Bracket Arms MC, Gypsy MC, Honor Bound Motorcycle Ministry, Renatos MC, Escondidos MC, Los Pirados MC, Leathernecks MC, Vietnam Vets Legacy Vets MC, In Country MC, and the Tornado Motorcycle Club. All of the arrestees are being charged under Title 11, Section 7102, a draconian Texas law entitled Engaging in Organized Criminal Activity. According to that law, a person commits an offense if, with the intent to establish, maintain, or participate in a combination or in the profits of a combination, or as a member of a criminal street gang, the person commits or conspires to commit one or more of most of the acts that are illegal in Texas, including possessions of small amounts of marijuana, transporting a firearm, and possessions of banned weapons like brass knuckles and butterfly knives. Police seized about 100 weapons at the crime scene. Sergeant Patrick Swanton, a spokesman for the Waco Police Department, called the attendees a bunch of criminal element biker members that came to Waco and tried to instill violence into our community, and unfortunately did just that. This is not a bunch of doctors and dentists and lawyers riding harness. These are criminals on Harley Davidsons. We got to take a little short break here for Truth Radio. I'll do that to play a commercial for my Friday guest here. Hold on.
Hello, friends. This is RJ, the Mighty Phoenix. Friends, if you're a business owner and need capital to sustain or accentuate your business, and if you've been in business for 2 years or more, and your credit scores are low as 500, I can help you. Credit scores don't pay back with money that you borrow. Credit scores are only weapons being used against you in the war on small business. You pay back money that you borrow with business monies earned. So if you have 6 recent bank statements and your business is active, and as I said, you've been in business for over 2 years, I can get you money within 8 business days. Contact me at R as in Russell, J as in James, P as in Peter, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, at yahoo.com. That's R, J, P, P, A, yahoo.com. And if you're not in business and you need to earn extra cash and you don't want to go out and work for someone who's going to take advantage of you, or you don't want to spend the money to gas and get paid minimum wage, you can work with me, not for me, and earn big commissions. And all you need to do is place ads on the computer, on the internet, on Craigslist, on Backpage, on other sites in the financial section. Only 15 minutes a day. Again, contact me at rjppapa@yahoo.com. Leave your cell phone number. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And we'll discuss the issue. I can help you. Again, rjppapa@yahoo.com. Have a great day, folks.
All right. All right, let's see what else we got here. The restaurant did it. The Texas Region 1 COC and Independence meeting was scheduled to begin at 1 p.m. The fight began about 12:15. Local police had urged the restaurant, a Hooters knockoff called Twin Peaks, to refuse service to bikers. Waco police claim the violence could have been prevented if Jay Patel, the operating partner at the independently owned Waco franchise, had simply banned the Confederation of Clubs from meeting there. In a statement Sunday, Patel said our management team had ongoing and positive communication with the police. The Sergeant Swinton said, "What occurred here today is the worst case scenario when a business owner puts profits over human lives. It's sad this could have all been avoided." The restaurant has been sponsoring a bike night on Thursdays. Local police have been trying to convince the management to stop that too. It is legal in Texas, as it is in most states, to ban the display of motorcycle club patches in public establishments. They were aware that there were issues there, Swinton said. It was local management here. We told them of the issues. We tried to get assistance in reference to dealing with these crowds, but they would not cooperate. Today, Front Burner Restaurants, which owns the Twin Peaks chain, announced it was canceling the Waco Restaurants franchise agreement. We are in the people business, and the safety of employees and guests in our restaurants is priority one. Unfortunately, the management team of the franchised restaurant in Waco chose to ignore the warnings and advice from both the police and our company and did not uphold the high security standards we have in place to ensure everyone is safe at our restaurants. We will not tolerate the actions of this relatively new franchise and are revoking their franchise agreement immediately. Our sympathies continue to be with the families of those who died and are very thankful to the employees, guests, police officers, or bystanders who were hurt or injured. Swenton said, "It's a good thing for law enforcement here. That is one issue that we don't have to worry about, people coming in and creating another incident after the tragic incident we had last night." When the restaurant refused to ban the Confederation of Clubs, police stationed at least 22 cops, including 10 SWAT team officers from the Waco PD and the Texas Department of Public Safety in the parking lot outside the restaurant. They did not station either uniformed or plainclothes officers in the restaurant. The shove in the bathroom became a scuffle in the restaurant when about 30 banditos, Cossacks, scimitars, and other bikers spilled into the parking lot between the Twin Peaks and Don Carlos Mexican restaurant next door. The police were waiting for them. The scuffle became a knife fight when several men were stabbed. When one of the combatants produced a gun, the SWAT team opened fire with automatic weapons. The multiple sources have told the aging rebel that all of the dead were killed by police. Swenton said the fuselage saved lives in keeping this from spilling into the very busy Sunday morning. Thank goodness for the officers were here and took action that they needed to save numerous lives. The investigation into the massacre is being supervised by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive. And just like Waco, you can be sure that they will be impartial, can't you? Since the massacre, police have announced there's credible information about the threats towards law enforcement. Waco police issued a bulletin at 10:13 Sunday night that announced our agency has received information that the Cossacks and the Banditos have issued an order to kill anyone in uniform. I think that is a total lie and a total bullshit, since I know the presidents and the founders of all of these organizations, including Don Chambers, who's now dead, and Sonny Barger, who's still alive. I would have in all the time I've been around them, I've never heard an order issued like that. Let's see what the local news has to say about that. Now, you know, all the people killed there were killed by the police, who basically probably shot anybody wearing colors. They didn't care whether they were banditos or Cossacks.
Is the News Channel 25 special report.
And we continue our breaking news coverage of this deadly biker gang shooting in Waco.
It's at the Twin Peaks restaurant in Central Texas Marketplace. Another press conference going on now. Let's go there live. Well, they're not quite ready to go, but we should tell you 9 people are dead. 8 were shot and killed at that restaurant or in the parking lot of that restaurant earlier today, about 12:15. One more person died at the hospital. All of the dead are members of a biker gang. Now, it could be one of 2 or 3 biker gangs. We don't know yet which ones those are. Police are not saying to give them that publicity, and police are also concerned about retaliation and payback coming up. This was the scene earlier. The credit there from Dustin Pachowski of a picture. It happened about 12:15. Police were already on the scene. They were concerned. They had heard that there were going to be a large number of bikers gathering at that Twin Peaks restaurant at Central Texas Marketplace.
And they say they had been working with the management at Twin Peaks, but not getting much cooperation from the standpoint of allowing these violent groups to come in and take part at their restaurant. The fight apparently started inside the restaurant, then moved outside. There was fighting with feet and hands, bicycle chains, even a club, and then it escalated from there and gunfire started.
Now, Patrick Swanton from Waco PD told us that they had the SWAT team on standby and ready because they anticipated there might be some trouble today after this meeting, and we're told that that indeed did happen, of course. And now bikers are gathering at different areas around Waco, we're told. Police are providing security in some of those areas. There have been other arrests at the Waco Convention Center, also at a convenience store at Bagby and New Road, just up the street from the TV station here. And police are on guard looking for more, possibly more violence. So let's go now to that press conference.
For the afternoon. We have one additional that died at the hospital due to his wounds. So that brings us to a total body count of 9 individuals that have been killed here at the shooting at Twin Peaks today. I spoke with the hospitals in the area, and I've got a decent number that I can give you for the number of injured that were taken there. And that number stands right now as 18 individuals that were transported from the scene here. Most of those had gunshot wounds and stab wounds as well. It's my understanding that 2 of those 18 have been transferred out to other area hospitals due to the severity of their wounds. The hospital management did tell me that the injured that were brought in, most of them had gunshot wounds. Some of them had gunshot wounds and stab wounds as well. What we're doing at this point, the scene is relatively secure as far as the initial crime scene. We are in the process of shutting down the entire Central Texas marketplace area due to this significant danger from outlaw biker groups coming in. Those of you that don't know, Trooper D.O. Wilson is the PIO for the Texas Department of Public Safety for this area, and he and I will be here for the remainder of the evening trying to get you the information that you need. I can tell you again that at this point we are right now shutting down the entire Central Texas marketplace. The reason that we're doing that is we don't feel it is safe to keep these businesses open, not only for the businesses but for the patrons that are coming in to shop this Sunday. There have been additional arrests. Some occurred not more than 15 minutes ago of additional biker members that were trying to get into the scene. Those individuals were arrested with weapons, and they are being transported to the county jail as we speak, and will be charged with engaging in organized crime. We will not tolerate criminal behavior in reference to what's going on here today. There is a heavy abundance of state, local, county, and federal officers that are coming into our area to assist. And we'll do what we have to do to make Waco safe for our citizens. We feel like at this point this area is becoming much more secure, but we are getting intel that there may be additional biker gang members headed this way. We will deal with them as appropriate if and when they do show up in our area. That's about all I have update-wise at this point. We'll continue the investigation here. I will tell you it will be a slow and tedious process due to the number of killed that are still here on scene. There is a lot of evidence to process, and we're doing that with the assistance of the county officers, DPS, FBI is here, as well as numerous other local, state, and federal organizations that are helping us on this investigation. I'll take a few questions from you, but what I would ask that we'll do that one at a time so we don't have to shout over each other. Yes, sir. I know at least 3 of the outside guys. I have heard additional arrests as well that have occurred not only at this immediate area, but outside our areas. There are still numerous individuals detained here at the scene of the Twin Peaks. We are in the process of interviewing those individuals, going through numerous motorcycles that are here, trying to discover additional weapons and possibly contraband on those as well. Yes, ma'am. That's correct. All 3 of those individuals were carrying weapons. All 3 of those individuals have been arrested, and they're now facing engaging in organized crime. We will consider any action that is here that may be criminal in nature. We will immediately take care of that, and we will file the most significant charge on those individuals that we can. This is not something that we're playing around with, and law enforcement is taking this very serious for our community to keep our citizens safe.
Is this one of like the biggest kind of crime scenes Waco's had? I mean, besides obviously the siege.
Yeah, Chrissy, I think it's fair to say this is a major crime scene. Anytime you have 8 individuals like this that have been killed in a criminal act, it's pretty significant. Hence the reason we have all of the resources. I would tell you that Waco PD could not handle this by ourselves. That is the fortunate aspect of this that we have with the relationship that we have with county, state, and federal officers, is at the drop of a hat they were here. And we have had officers off duty that have been calling, asking to respond to assist if needed. Obviously, this will continue throughout the night, and so we're trying to make sure that we have enough resources to adequately staff shifts. But I will tell you, it's a tremendous outpouring of support from every local law enforcement agency around. And I can't name one because there are so many that are here. We've had them from West, we've had them from Marina, Robinson, Woodway, Hewitt. It's just easier for me to say every local law enforcement agency is called asking what resources they can send to us, and without a doubt it'll be me.
I have another question. Earlier, maybe about a half hour, 45 minutes ago, we saw that GPS chopper land in the parking lot.
Yes,
Can you tell us why, what was going on with that?
Sorry, I will tell you that we have cleared the airspace around us for the immediate area. The reason we have done that is for safety reasons for our GPS helicopter and other law enforcement helicopters that are here. What you'll see them do is they will land, they'll pick up evidence officers. We are getting evidence from the scene documented, such as pictures, photographs. I will tell you that I personally have been up to the scene. It is a pretty gruesome scene. There is a lot of evidence there to process, which includes dead bodies, shell casings, knives, clubs, and other paraphernalia that is up there as well. So what you see is the helicopters will land, take a different set of evidence techs up, and they're doing everything that they can do to document the scene the best that they can. Anybody else?
Now keep in mind that the police are investigating a shooting in which they did all of the shooting. If you were wearing colors, if you were riding a motorcycle, if you had a weapon, whether it was legal or not, they considered you to be the enemy. They considered you to be organized crime. They're going to try to find something, throw something against the wall, and see if it sticks. At the same time, halfway across the country, there's a few thousand bikers riding in Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day to protest the prisoners of war and the MIAs in support of our veterans. This is a way to contradict this. The bikers didn't kill each other. They didn't kill 9 of them. The police came in here because of one barroom fight, because of one stabbing, and the police are the ones that killed 9 bikers. Let's keep that in mind. When the stories come out about this, the police shot bikers. They could have just been standing there. They could have been, they probably had guns. Yeah, they probably had knives. And these 9 people were 8 at least killed by police. And the rest of them demonized, arrested, so the lawyers could make the money off of it. I am Clay Douglas, trying to give you the truth, trying to give you the support. freeamerican.com, bringing you the truth as always. God bless you all. freeamerican.com, shop.freeamerican.com. And the first half of the show was with spokesman for Lyndon, LaRouche. God bless you all. See ya.